Hi, everyone. Leila wants to say hi. In this week's video, we are going to... Oh, look, we have another dog with a tug toy. Because Esri's wanting to play all the time now. She has to make up for 2 weeks lost time. We're going to talk this week about cut flowers that I disliked so much this past year that there is no way I'll be growing them again. In fact, I disliked some of them so much I didn't even cut on them. I just completely ignored them and put it down to an experiment. Leila, be quiet. Oh no. Okay, hang on. Okay, you guys, off. Off, no. Okay, but before we do that, just a reminder that on the Wednesday after you watch this video, I don't have my calendar in front of me, so I can't remember the date exactly, I will be doing a Q&A of all the questions that I have received for January's videos, and this is the last January video of the month, so this is the last video for questions that will make it into that Q&A, but I will only look at questions up to the end of Sunday or my Monday morning, because I'm actually going to film it on Monday so that if there's something that goes really wrong, I have another day to film again. I don't like to film right on top of the day that it's going to publish just in case things go wrong. So I like to have a buffer of at least one day. So I will be filming it on Monday afternoon. So make sure you have your questions in before the end of Sunday or at least by Monday morning. Okay, now let's get on with the video. So first, these are not in any particular order. The first one that I was actually really looking forward to using, not necessarily in the bouquets because it has a stem length of what they say is 16 inches. Still long enough to use in bouquets so long as they sit down low, but definitely in my pop cans. And I thought they would be just a great addition to the pop cans up on the road where I sell 1 to 3 flowers in a pop can that has water in it, which people in cars love because the pop cans sit in their drink containers. And that way they're not out of water at all. Plus, you know, pop can's only a couple of cents, so it's not like I'm losing any money by putting them in the pop can when they take the pop can with them. And also, people can buy the pop cans and put them in little flower or put them in little vases that I also sell, but I sell the vases without flowers in them. So you can buy pop cans and a vase and put them together if you want, if it's a gift for somebody. But anyway, I'm digressing. I haven't even said what the flower is yet. So that flower is the Frizzle Sizzle Pansy. Now my computer's here, and I'll put everything up on the screen here. I had so much high hopes for this flower. I love pansies, as almost everybody does, and a 16-inch stem length on them is really not something you see from the garden centers, so that would make them quite unique. Plus that little frilliness of them I quite like too. The issue is, they obviously did not like my growing conditions, which would be my soil, because I grew them in pots in the sun, in pots in the shade. I grew them in the ground in the sun, and I grew them in the ground in the shade. So 4 different ways. None of them got a stem longer than 2 inches, if that. So that doesn't make it a very good cut flower. And that is, you know, makes it actually a terrible cut flower for me to use for my roadside flower wagon. So that is definitely the first one on my list of worst cut flowers for me. And it was really, really disappointing because I do love pansies. Now, the next one on my list was almost the same kind of thing happened. And that was the chocolate-covered cherry coleus. Granted, it's not a flower, but the colorations in the leaves are so beautiful that it adds... So those deep burgundies will add the same thing to a bouquet that a deep burgundy flower will. And because it's supposed to have long enough stems to work in bouquets, I would use it like a flower, not like foliage. But the same thing happened. I grew it in the same 4 different conditions, in a pot and sun, in a pot and shade, in the ground and sun, in the ground and shade. And the stem lengths were about as bad, maybe just a little bit better than the pansies. I will say the ones in the pots did better than the ones in the grounds, but even still, they only grew at the most about 6 inches tall. Okay, well that's better than 2 inches by quite a bit, but still not nearly good enough to use as a cut flower. Great to use as little tiny pots in fancy containers, or like sprouting out of the edge of strawberry pots. But that's not what I want them for. So they were the second worst cut flower that I grew last year, because they never got used either. They simply didn't have enough length to the what do you call that? The circle of leaves on their stem to use in a bouquet. So very, very disappointed in that too, because that was another one that I was really looking forward to. Now the third one that was one of my worst cut flowers is actually not one that I was looking forward to. It was a color that I didn't think I was going to like. But I know I like that color in other shades. Just in the photographs, I didn't like it. But I thought, okay, that could be the photograph, because I've never seen it actually in real life. And that is the Amandine yellow ranunculus. It was as harsh a yellow in real life as it was in the picture. And I don't like that yellow. I liked it. I disliked it so much, in fact, that I ignored it. I didn't cut it. I didn't use it. It was there, all for the cutting. All it was doing was taking up space that I could have grown something else in. Because, oh, look who's here. Can you see that I still got Lila here and she's all nice and quiet? Ezra's gone. Didn't use it at all. Really, really didn't like the color. And that doesn't always stop me, because it doesn't have to always be about what I like. But because I didn't like the color, it kind of meant it didn't go with anything that I had blooming, because generally I will plant colors that I like. And I couldn't even figure out how to make it work in a bouquet. Now, there are a lot of yellow flowers that I do like. For example, I love Bartzella, which is an Ito peony. Absolutely love that one. I love Wanda scapella, which is a dinner plate dahlia. I love Bolt, which is a ball dahlia. I love Orleans early lemon snapdragons. And even so, I love all those yellows. If I put them up on the screen separately, which I will, because I'll be putting the pictures up after I film my little sections, you'll see that the yellows in those flowers are a much softer. I mean, a lot of people call that more buttery yellow, but frankly, I think the ranunculus is more of a butter yellow. To me, that's the color of what butter is. And the other yellows are just a softer, paler, more sunlit type of yellow. I guess is the best way to describe it. If you've watched me describe flowers before, you know I like flowers that look like they have sunlight dancing on them. And the other ones have that, but the harsh yellow of the ranunculus did not. It was like it just absorbed light, and it was just a blotch of that shade of more pungent yellow, whereas the other ones had the shadows and the reflections and had a bit more dance to them. And I'm pretty sure that's why without actually having it right in front of me and analyzing it next to all the other ones, which don't bloom at the same time, I can only guess that that is why I don't like it. I didn't like that blotch of a strong yellow with no undulation of shadows and reflections and dance in it. And so I didn't use it. And none of these ones I can even show you in bouquets, because I simply didn't use them. So if you're enjoying the video so far, please don't forget to give it a like. And now let's get on with the next one. So what is the next one? Well, the next one is kind of the same thing, and it's another ranunculus. And that's the Amandine bonbon. Now, as with the yellow ranunculus, this particular shade of red, while it does have more light, you can see it in the photograph, while it does have more light reflection on it and more shadow, it's such a harsh red that I tried to use it, and I even used it in a couple of my bouquet recipes that I did for my channel. But honestly, when it came to doing bouquets for up at my roadside flower wagon, I didn't use it at all. I did use it in my pop cans. I don't think I used the yellow ranunculus in the pop cans at all, because I just didn't have anything really to pair it with. But I did use the brighter red ones in the pop cans. But I kind of avoided using it in bouquets, except for the experiments that I did in the bouquet recipes that I was doing for YouTube. And for that reason, it was taking up space, again, that wasn't, could have been used up for something better. So it makes another one of my worst cut flowers. So as much as I love ranunculus, as much as everybody loves ranunculus, that color of red and that color of yellow and ranunculus were just like terrible for me. They were the worst. Loved all the other ranunculus colors, but not those two. I have a couple of bouquets that I could have put up to show it, but I dislike it so much that I don't even want to put the bouquets up because I don't like them. So then we move on to another flower that is another one that I really, truly thought I was going to love and was really looking forward to it when I ordered it. In fact, I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to order it because I was really excited about it. And that is the Anemone Rainbow Blueberry. Now, the Anemone Rainbow Blueberry with that blue center, I thought was really, really cool because, as you know, blue is an unusual color to have in flowers, and that's certainly not one that you can get at garden centers to plant in your garden. So to have it in bouquets is quite special. And yet, when it came time for it to bloom, I kind of didn't like it. I kind of just overlooked it again all the time. I don't think I used it at all in my bouquets. I used it in the pop cans, but I didn't use it in the bouquets. It was, it surprised me that I didn't like it. Really, really thought I would love that blue center on it. And it surprised me, and yet there are other blue flowers that I don't like. For example, when I tried the Classic Fantastic Bachelor's Button series, I thought I would like that because it's a blue flower, and I did not like it at all in all of its shades of blue. I tried Nigella, again, thinking I would love the blue, and I did not. So I never grew that one again. Those weren't from this year. However, Borage, with its blue, I love. So I'm not, and it's almost the same color as the Nigella. So it's not the color per se, it's somehow the way the color shows up in the flowers. There's another flower that I really liked the blue of, and that was in the Russian sage. But I stopped growing that for a reason that I'll get into later. Much as I loved the color of that flower, it had to go. So then we're going to get on to a flower that I do love and really wish I could use in bouquets, and that is the giant Solomon seal. So before I get talking about the giant Solomon seal, there's one other thing that I want to talk about, and that is, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate it. Okay, now let's get on with the giant Solomon seal. I love it. It's a very, very tall plant. That's why it's called, it's not Solomon seal, it's giant Solomon seal, and it gets in the shade and it grows in dark shade too. It grows in a very, very dark area in my garden. In the bed that travels along my driveway, if you've watched any of my previous videos, in the deepest shade, it grows beautifully in there, and it grows about at least 3 feet tall to its top, and then it has the curve over of the length of little tiny white blossoms that come in pairs along it. And it's stunning. Now, the biggest issue with it is my flower wagon only has so much height in it. And if I cut it, it's in some respects too tall for the flower wagon. The other problem is it grows in deep shade. So if it's a sunny day, I can't use it in the flower wagon because it'll just sag and flop, because its life is, as it was growing, was used to not being in virtually any sun whatsoever. So it's a flower that I can cut on very gloomy days to use in the flower wagon, but that would be it. And even then, I'd have to really cut it back to make sure that it could fit into it, which makes it a terrible cut flower, really, because there's only like maybe 1 or 2 days of the year that I can use it now that we're getting into hotter and drier summers in the last few years, and that's probably the way it will always be now. But I'm not going to get rid of it because it grows in the deep shade, so it gives beautiful flower interest in an area that virtually nothing else will grow in. So I will keep it as a garden flower, but it's a terrible cut flower for the reasons of what I said before, which is really too bad. So, ow, I got, you see the nose? I got Leela's nose in the way. So the next flower we're going to talk about is actually a dahlia that I've grown for a few years. But I grow about 150 to 200 dahlias, and each year I analyze the dahlias that I'm growing. Now the first year, I just bought like one of every dinner plate dahlia, And then the next year I added in some ball dahlias. And then the next year I wanted to grow more of the ones that I liked and eliminate some of the ones that I didn't like. And it's a slow process because when you're growing one of everything, it takes a while to narrow it down because you can't remember everything. And I wasn't writing everything down. So I'm now in the, I don't know, third or fourth year of making the dahlias that grow far more concise. And this year, I'm only actually really cutting one dahlia that I haven't decided to cut in previous years. And that is Sylvia, which is a ball dahlia. And the reason I am cutting that one is because I find the stems on it really thin. And the heads can be floppy on it, which is, again, not that big of a deal. But when you have those really, really thin stems with those bigger, floppier ball dahlia heads on it, the skinny little stems only allow so much water to get up into that flower head. So I find that they hold up to the heat of the flower wagon not as well as almost all of my other ball dahlias. So I found that was one that I was actually not using at all this past year. I skipped over the Sylvia completely and was just simply using all of the other ball dahlias that I had, or dinner plate dahlias. So that is the one, that is the worst dahlia that I grew last year. And so for that reason, I will cut that out. Now I don't mind, now when I cut them out, I sell the tubers. Because I sell the not the tubers, but the pre-started plants, I sell them up at my flower wagon. So I don't mind eliminating dahlias that I'm not going to use. I don't find it a cost that I have lost because, first of all, I've grown it for a few years and I've probably recovered my cost in it just in the ones that I have cut and sold before. And second of all, when I sell the pre-started plants, I'm recovering the costs of tubers anyway, especially because originally I probably only bought, I think of Sylvia, only 2. And then it multiplied up to the number of plants that I have now. The reason I do like to eliminate them is, again, because I want to increase the number of dahlias that I'm growing, of the ones that perform really well for me. And also each year I like the idea of trialing some new dahlias as well. So by removing some or growing less of some, growing more of others, I hopefully have space to trial a few new ones. And sometimes those new ones that I've trialed will take places of ones that I thought I would be keeping, but the new one that I trialed I just like so much better. So the elimination is just opening the door for improving the 150 to 200 dahlia selection that I have available for me for bouquets. So that's my little spiel on dahlias. So what do we have after the Sylvia ball dahlia? Well, this is a cut flower, but it's not a cut flower. It's the Triumph Tulip Helmar. Now, if you've been following me, you know I don't grow tulips as a cut flower. I grow them in pots, 1-gallon pots, 3 bulbs per pot. And I sell them up at my roadside flower wagon, $10 for 3 bulbs inside the 1-gallon pot. When they are just, they don't even have to be open to bloom yet because there will be pictures of them. So they can go up to the flower wagon before they're open but are getting ready to open, or they can just stay up there open and so forth. Now, I really, really liked the look of the Triumph Tulip Helmar. However, when it bloomed in my garden, that yellow color, those shades of yellow, looked white from a distance. It was actually just kind of a yellowy white with a hint of yellow in it. So there was no shades of obvious yellow in it unless you were up close to it, which was surprising because that's quite different. The other thing is that deep maroon color was actually scarlet red, and it was very thin striations through it, not big blocks like that. So I basically had a white tulip with some thin streaks of bright red in it. Not at all what it looked like in the picture. And it didn't sell well for that reason. Had it looked like what it did in the picture, I'm sure I would have sold a lot more of it, but I ended up with quite a few of them in inventory because they weren't what people were reaching for. In fact, if they wanted that sort of pale, yellowy white color, they were reaching for the pots of daffodils and not the tulips. So they should, the Triumph tulips do perennialize in our area, so the ones that went back into inventory should bloom again this year. And they will be able to go up to the stand with the tulips that I purchased and have decided to grow again this year. And maybe that will encourage people to, if they buy another tulip, they'll think, well, this one goes with that tulip, which is actually one thing I kept in mind of I'm growing 3 different types of tulips this year. Don't remember what they are off the top of my head. But I know that the Helmar will work nicely with the 3 that I bought. So, and I bought an early, mid, and late blooming tulip. And so when 1 or 2 or all of those are blooming, because last year, the way we went straight from winter into summer, everything just bloomed all at once, whether it was an early or a late. Whoops, that was Leela, or was that Esri? Because Esri just walked through here too. With the combination there, somebody might buy 1 tulip and then also buy the Helmar because it makes a nice pairing with it. So hopefully that's how my leftover Helmars will sell. Either way, the Helmars, because the bulbs were so cheap at 39 cents a bulb, 3 per pot, and then selling them for $10 a pot, I recovered all my costs plus my labor at $30 an hour and still made a profit on the tulips because they are very profitable. So it doesn't really matter. The inventory that was left is now free inventory, and I did do well with the tulips. I just didn't sell them all. So that's my little spiel on those tulips. Okay, so now I mentioned earlier that Russian sage was one that I love the flower of, but it made my worst cut flower list last year. And it wasn't because of the look of the flower, but rather than going into what it was that made me decide to cut that, as well as what else did I cut last year? I cut I believe the Nigella Moody Blue came out of last year's cutting as well. If you want to see why they didn't make my good cut flower list and made the worst cut flower list, check out this video over here. See you at my Q&A on Wednesday. Bye.